Welcome to The Growth Shift, the podcast where we unlock the psychological and strategic blueprints of predictable growth. If you've built a successful business, you know the truth. Your expertise is high value, but your time is finite. The question is, how do you sustain that success without sacrificing your most valuable asset? We believe that the next level of success requires a strategic pivot, a fundamental shift that moves beyond the old ways. In every episode, we dive into the critical turning points of industry leaders and uncover how they're leveraging AI not as a shortcut, but as the strategic force for their next growth shift. Today, we dive in with a leader who is defining the future of their industry. This episode is brought to you by Valentix, your strategic growth partner. At Valentix, we believe that trust and authentic relationships are the only true currency in high-value business. We challenge the status quo by building an AI-powered client acquisition engine that enhances your human connection, helping you move beyond the slow growth of referrals. Our AI-powered systems eliminate the grind, allowing you to break through the noise, automate tasks, and free up your time to focus on transformative client impact. If you're ready to build a predictable growth engine, learn more at valentix.io. Now let's dive into today's episode. Today on The Growth Shift, we're joined by Felipe Zimmer, the visionary founder of ClientWins.io. Felipe's story is a profound journey of self-discovery and entrepreneurial resilience, spanning continents and a 6-month period of complete solitude in Brazil, which fundamentally reshaped his approach to life and business. After successfully navigating door-to-door sales and excelling as a head coach for a consulting firm, Felipe now serves as a holistic business coach, helping service-based entrepreneurs with strategic systems, lead generation, and deep personal alignment. His insights into self-mastery, strategic adaptation, and the pursuit of purpose offer a powerful blueprint for intentional growth. Felipe, welcome to The Growth Shift.
Thank you so much for having me, David. Appreciate it.
It's my pleasure. I've been excited for our conversation. Felipe, your journey is truly unique, spanning from a 6-month period of solitude in Brazil with no technology to working door-to-door selling solar panels and eventually becoming a head coach for a consulting firm. Tell us a little bit more about this journey and how it shaped the position that you're in now.
Yeah, it's a long story, but long story short, when I decided to seclude myself, it happened because I couldn't find anyone in my life that was an example for myself, right? Someone that I looked up to and I want to be like this person. This is the path that I want to follow. So I couldn't find this in the people around me. Sometimes we see people online, on the TV and internet, things like that, but it's not enough. It's not close enough for us to be able to mirror them. So I decided to find that within myself. And that's when I had the opportunity to go to this house in the middle of nature where I spent about 6 months in isolation, and I didn't have any technologies, didn't take any computer. I turned off my cell phone during that time and no books as well. So it was several months of just having to spend time with myself, purposefully looking at my own thoughts, my own emotions, my own state of being, and having no distractions. So that turned out to be one of the biggest challenges that I've ever faced in my life. I honestly thought I was going crazy for the first month. It was really intense. All those stories that we tell ourselves since we were born, since everyone in our lives told us about different stories, about things to believe and how the world works, those starting to pop up at the same time. So I had to face them. Very intense at the beginning, and eventually it helped me to find a different path, which we can talk more about it today. And then I ended up going towards a different path for sure. For a moment, I thought maybe I should live in isolation forever. I decided to change that. Of course, I'm here now in the US, but that was back then when I was in Brazil and I was in that house and I was living at peace. I found so much peace after confronting my own mind, and I felt like I was levitating on a day-to-day. It felt like peace was within me and around me, and it was a product of really going beyond those limiting beliefs, I believe. Eventually, I started realizing that this could be very different if I had challenges around me, right? So that's when I started asking myself, how much of this experience is real? How much of this peace is happening because I don't have the challenges of building a family, of building a business, of interacting with a chaotic society? And so I decided to take everything that I've learned and the experiences that I've created for myself in that moment and challenge myself if I could experience them in the world out there with everyone else, right? So that's when I decided to move out of the country. I ended up in California. I live in Southern California right now in Newport Beach. And when I got to the US, didn't know a single soul here. And I started building my life from scratch. I got a job as a salesperson selling solar door to door, right? So a different language, a different country, different everything for myself at that moment. So that took me into this new journey of learning how to bring all those things that I've learned about myself into this shared experience with other people, right? And I believe it's still a challenge to this day in a way, right? I think we've all living that challenge. And now with my own business, that's something that I seek to apply, and I do business coaching and I help other small business owners to grow their businesses. But it's not all about the grind. It's not all about the revenue. There's so much more into that. We are, people creating those experiences. And I think there's so much that we can learn from going really deep into certain things that sometimes people tend to ignore.
Felipe, that was an incredibly transformative story, right? Just from taking yourself of a position where you were lost, maybe you didn't know what direction to go, who you wanted to become, putting yourself in complete solitude and isolation for 6 months. Most people would be terrified to do that for a month or a week, let alone 6 months, right? What you must have learned about yourself through that journey was incredible. You found it within yourself to then take yourself out of solitude and peace and put yourself into challenging environments and see how could you handle yourself with these external influences and forces that you didn't have to deal with in your time in isolation? I mean, you moved to the US, new door-to-door sales, new language, new place, no one else you knew, no network. That alone must have been a challenge greater than most people ever face. I feel like there was a lot that you must have learned about yourself. Of course, there was a lot you must have learned about yourself during that 6-month period. Right? You mentioned that, for the first month you felt you were going crazy. Of course, you turned off your cell phone. You had no books. What about that journey do you think was the most challenging for yourself to overcome?
I think one of the main things was the stories that we tell ourselves. As I mentioned before, since we're little kids, we basically were like sponges, right? We're like absorbing these beliefs from people around us. It's like teachers at school, our colleagues, friends, parents, family in general, everyone else, and the TV, like videos, etc. What ends up happening is that we develop this sense of self, right? We start telling ourselves, this is who I am this, I do things this way, and we develop this identity, and we also tell things like in a similar way about the world, right? And what I realized is that those stories were not really like who I am. They were just like almost like programs that I was repeating in my own mind, and then I just learned over time to repeat them. So I started looking at them, and initially I was so identified with them that they felt personal, right? I felt so close, and they generate emotions. So and when I had to face them without distractions, I was kind of obligated to feel those emotions and to leave those thoughts in a way until it felt like I was going crazy. It was just so much I couldn't bear, the amount of information and feelings and so on. And this took me to a moment of detachment. I don't know if it was a survival mode or what exactly it was, but it made me detach from all those emotions and those stories. And I started to observe them from afar, almost just of like literally disconnected. And as I was looking at them from afar, I gained perspective. Like as if there was a sense of self, of who we are beyond the mind that we're used to on a daily basis. And I think that helped me learn how to really go deep when I choose to.
So it sounds like really through that journey, self-discovery, you started to really pinpoint and isolate those self-limiting beliefs, perhaps learned from culture, from advertising, from parents, from friends, from these ideas or notions that you built up around yourself. And through that time, you learned how to detach yourself from them. And what I take from that is that you were able to step back, as you said, and observe yourself from a different perspective and realize that perhaps, we aren't our feelings. We aren't how we think about ourselves in any one moment. No one decides who we are or who we can be based off of their own beliefs projected onto us in a way, right? So you were able to go on this journey of self-discovery and I think put yourself in a position that many entrepreneurs really need to be in, right? To be able to look at yourself and look at how you're feeling in any situation. What external forces are influencing this? Why do I feel this way? How can I get more control over myself, my mind, and my situation? And with that, those lessons that you learned, you went into door-to-door sales. You mastered that. You went into a coaching company and you became one of their top performers, right? With the understanding of yourself, how you're feeling, the observations that you can make of the position you're in and what's really impacting that. Who can you really be? How can you separate yourself from the stress, the uncertainty, the downtimes, the uptimes? And I think you probably were able to find a good baseline of consistency as a result. Am I understanding this all?
Yes, yes, absolutely. That was a good way to put everything together.
So you learned these things about yourself, you learned about sales, you learned about business, and you made a shift, right? You started your own company, clientwins.io. Now you provide holistic business coaching services to service-based entrepreneurs. What does that really look like? And how is it that you bring your understanding of yourself and what you've learned along the way to be able to service your clients?
Yeah, it's really interesting because when I started my own business, I've never done this before, right? I never had my own business. It was the first time doing that. Yes, I had my experience in sales. I had my experience as a head coach, business coach for another company. But once you start by yourself, things change, right? Now you're not working, let's say 9 to 5. You're working 24/7 in a way because it's all about what you're doing. The skills that I developed during that time helped me a lot with this because one of the things that I did, especially at the beginning, I think most people, they leverage their network. They start calling people they know. They start having conversations with new people they network with as well. So that's what I did initially. I started reaching out to people that I knew and I started networking. So what I basically did was to have conversations with people and really try to go layers deeper into the things that were happening in their own lives, in their own business. Instead of just having a kind of a superficial networking experience. I don't know, people go sometimes to an event and they're trying to exchange business cards or something like that. I was not delegating anything to my business card. I was trying to go there and have a deep conversation. Basically, it was I try to understand what problems people have. And then in the back of my mind, I was asking myself, is there anything I can do to help them? And as I had multiple of those conversations, several people started telling me that they had, certain problems with their business. It could be sales, it could be marketing, it could be strategy, mindset. Maybe they're confused because they could be taking 10 different paths. They don't know which one to take. And after listening, asking skill questions to generally try to understand them, being curious about their process, that I'll position myself as someone that could potentially help them with that. Right. And that took me to, sign up my first book of clients and then take my business off the ground. Right. Which now I'm taking this to a different level with adding systems, using advertising, using AI, using other things to, take my business to the next level. And that's what I've been working on as of the next year.
Wonderful. There's an incredible lesson here that I want to pull out for the audience. And, there's two lessons. The first one is, go to your warm network, go to the people you know, tell everyone you know about what you're doing. There's people who will need your help. But the second lesson is, and it's important to at every stage of business, you have to think about your customer, your potential customer or client first. Really understand the position they're in, what they need, and how you can help them before you try and offer them a service. Especially if you're working on developing a new product or a new service, you need to deeply understand your market on an intimate level. So in their own words, you can translate to them or convey to them exactly how it is you can fill those needs and gaps. Because in business, if you're just providing services and products and features, you're not going to go anywhere. At the end of the day, it's results that people are looking for. So a great marketing lesson there to pull out. Now, Felipe, you work with your clients holistically, you understand their needs, you find the gaps, and you help fill them with a deeper level of understanding of who they are, their problems, and how those problems might impact their business and their lives. Do you have any stories or examples you could share with us about where you met a client and how you helped them move forwards and the results that really followed?
Yeah, absolutely. One of clients that come top of mind right now, they're actually a couple, right? And they work together and they are communication coaches. So they help mostly businesses to solve communication problems within the company. Right. And when it came to me, they were having some issues with some limiting beliefs that they had that they didn't realize. One of them, it was the way that they're packaging their own services. A lot of what they're doing was like very short engagements. typically it went for like 1 to 10 sessions, and they were trying to sell that to companies, and they often will get deals done, but they wouldn't go too long, right? So it was always hard because they're always trying to find new deals and so on. And at that time, they were making about $5,000-7,000 a month with that. And their main challenge was their LTV for clients were real low, the lifetime value of clients, right? So what I helped them realize over time is that they needed to increase the LTV. So if they could find a way to provide value to those companies for a longer term, that would change the game for them. And at the same time, pairing that with raising their prices, which were pretty low at the time. So what we did was we pretty much made them to close deals from 6 to 12 months with those companies, and I think they probably quadrupled their price at this point compared to what it was at that time. They've been getting $50,000 months on a consistent basis now. And funny enough, I'm saying all those things right now. It sounds so simple, right? Just like, a couple of tweaks here and there with strategy. But in reality, there was a lot of limiting beliefs and a lot of resistance of them pushing back and not believing in themselves and having a lot of confusion throughout that process that took, a while for them to kind of go through those things until they could get on the other side.
That's amazing. I think what you did was incredible. And, the limiting beliefs and self-beliefs are one of the most limiting things that any business owner has, right? Because I think people tend to project their own lack of perhaps self-worth or confidence in certain situations and think, oh, if I was this client, would I pay for that? Or feeling about themselves, oh, but, perhaps I can't charge more. Who's going to want to pay me more? And it doesn't necessarily have to do with the business or the results of business they can drive, but how they feel about themselves in their own life. Perhaps. I think you have a little bit more depth of understanding there than I do, Philippe.
Yeah, absolutely. That is so true. It's pretty much spot on. Like most people have a lot more value to provide than they'll attribute themselves to skills that they would have for that. So in reality, we all think we need help, that we would, pay for someone else to do something for us, that we have our own people that we're fans about, this person or that person. But if someone does that to us, then we're like, we don't know how to behave, right? We're not used to those things. So it requires a mindset shift, especially as a business owner. If you're trying to provide services to other people, it requires a mindset shift for you to be able to not only accept that, to receive that, but to how do you position yourself in the best way, not only for yourself, but for your clients too, right? It's the reason why I decided to name the company Client Wins, right? Because it is focused on, creating results for clients.
And we're talking here about growth, about, having yourself in the right mindset to move forwards, regardless of challenges or limiting beliefs. A lot of coaches right now, I think, are facing, and consultants are facing some limiting beliefs. There's a lot of challenges very prominent in the market in 2026, especially when it comes to growth and scale, right? Client acquisition is one of the most difficult things that most businesses are up against right now. There's a lot of noise in the market. There's a lot of saturation. AI is flooding the market, making things more difficult than ever. Felipe, in your position, your business has been growing quite quickly, right? And with your level of understanding of yourself and the impact that you can have on clients, when you're looking at client acquisition for clientwins.io, what are some of the biggest challenges that you're observing for your growth, your business growth in 2026, and how are you tackling those challenges?
Yeah, that's a great question, because being part of this coaching consulting industry for several years, even when I was working for other companies before, I see the differences, especially before the pandemic and after the pandemic, and how things shifted in the past few years where everyone started going online. Back then, if you wanted to go to like Facebook or LinkedIn, any one of those platforms and message a certain amount of people per day, you get a bunch of sales calls, you get deals closed way more easily than it is nowadays. The reason being, most people nowadays that you will reach out to, they probably have heard from another 10 people in the same week, right?
At least.
So it's way more crowded. Before, you might be the only one or a couple more people that will be talking to them. Now there's a lot of competition, and that changed the industry. I think the buyers are a lot more educated now than they used to be. So the game changed. Before, people used a lot of sales skills that was more easily performed with people who were not educated. Now people can spot that from a mile away, right? As an example. So I think that is a big challenge. How can you stand out in a market that is saturated and still be authentic and connect with people, right? And I have a better way of connecting with people if I'm in front of them. But how do you do that when you're like online when you're on a message, right? You're not even talking to them on a video call yet, right? How do you stand out and get to connect with people? So those are all questions that not only myself, but I think most entrepreneurs are asking themselves nowadays. So I'm sure a lot of people resonate with that because it's a real struggle for most people. And then how you position yourself both organically or if you're going to use any paid advertisement as well. Those are things that people have to deal with on a daily basis.
Yeah, there's a lot out there. There's a lot of noise, confusion, junk. People are flooding the market. A lot of messages out there, a lot of them AI generated and done very poorly. But the biggest thing is getting in front of people for real conversations, right? Being able to build a connection, build trust, earn their trust, right? And show them that you're thinking about them and perhaps you care about their situation before you care about the money that maybe they could pay you at the end of the day. With this human-centric approach, building relationships, what are you leaning on right now as a strategy that, will help you overcome these things?
The things that I've used the most besides networking and leveraging connections that I already have is LinkedIn and Facebook. It's not even that much about the content creation. I create some content, I post some stuff out there. I'm not posting multiple pieces of content a day or anything like that. To me, it's what you just said, which is how can I serve the people there that I'm trying to connect with? So I try to start conversations. I literally get on the DMs and I do outreach. I talk to people and I create conversations to try to identify if they have any problems, if they have any goals, and we'll go from there. And of course, the messaging, how we make that happen. There's a lot of skill that goes into that because after you do thousands of those, you start developing those skills with what works and what doesn't work. But I think part of it is like having fun with it too. It's very important to have fun with that process. If you're trying to be too strict with it, people on the other side are not gonna feel it. So it's important to have fun with it, create some curiosity, have people to engage in different ways. They get interested in talking to you, and it's not just like a robot talking to them with repeating the same thing, copy and paste, right? I'm not a big fan of that. I'm trying to be authentic, to have real conversations, create curiosity, getting people to be intrigued about talking to me and being interested in seeing, okay, this guy have interesting insights, he might be able to provide value, right? And then they want to know more, they want to get on a call. That's when we get to connect on a deeper level and then take it from there.
Yeah, I love your approach. And you hit all the most important things there, right? Intrigue, curiosity, value, marketing at the end of the day. And this is all marketing. You're trying to get on a call, have a conversation with someone. It's an exchange of value. You have to be able to show somebody that you not only have something maybe that they want, but you're going to provide something to them that they need, whether or not they're going to do business with you. A great approach, for the audience and maybe for you, Felipe, as well. If you have the budget for it and, you have high ticket services or sales, offer them something that everybody needs and wants. Buy them lunch, right? But hey, maybe it's a virtual lunch. Send them a message. Hey, I want to Uber Eats you my favorite meal. Let's have a conversation. Would love to have lunch with you and learn more about what you're doing, right? Of course, they're going to know that you want to get on a call and you want to earn them as, potentially earn their business as a client, but you're still willing to give them something first, right? You're trying to earn time after all. You have to go a little bit further. Felipe, I cut into a thought there.
I love that. That's a great idea. Yes, it's about providing value. If you can find different ways to provide value first and show that you're being genuine about it, people are going to appreciate that for the most part.
We're talking about growth. We're talking about attracting clients. All of it comes down to growth at the end of the day. We're not in business just to have a great lifestyle, right? But to provide more of a lifestyle for ourselves and for our clients and perhaps for some other people as well along the way. So when we look at strategies for growth, Felipe, right now AI is a core piece to most people's strategies. It should be if it's not already. When we're looking at AI and what it is, the power that it can have for saving time, increasing output and efficiency, and so much more, how are you thinking about AI? Where does it come into your strategy?
There's so many things that we could talk about that, of course. AI is definitely here to change the world. It's already changing the world. And there are, of course, challenges with that too. But they're great things, right? One of the things that I think serves as an example is with meta ads. And back in the day, without AI, it was very hard to get your ads in front of the right people. So you're trying to have lookalike audiences, you're trying to do retargeting, you're trying to do the right things so you can put the ads in front of the right people. And very often that would not happen. So sometimes people have to burn a lot of money, test different ads, have the perfect copy to try to get in front of people. Nowadays, with the new Andromeda update that Meta Ads had with Facebook and Instagram, they are using AI in a way that is completely different, right? So it can pretty much learn a lot about your ad with AI, about your page, the content that you create, who you talk to on a daily basis, and so on, to be able to bring your ads in front of the right people. So that's an example of how AI is changing the game in business, and it's helping the ads to become a lot more targeted than they used to be. Some challenges, on the other hand, is like what we see when people are using, ChatGPT or any other AI to write content, and all of a sudden everyone sounds the same, right? You start seeing long dashes everywhere, and people sound like literally writing things with the same type of writing style. So it becomes almost easy to spot who is being more authentic and who is talking from a position of more depth, as opposed to just doing the quick work with AI. And don't get me wrong, I use AI too. I love it. I think that there's a lot of great things about it, but I think the question that I ask myself is, how can I use AI instead of being used by it, trying to still be authentic in using those tools? Because another thing that I believe might happen moving forward is that the more we use those tools, human beings tend to value things that are rare, and it's becoming more rare to find that authenticity, right? Especially online. And that's where I think people can stand out sometimes too.
And speaking of rarity here, I think that, the more people use AI and the more they use it like this, not properly, right? Using it to do everything for them, diminishing their own ability to develop their skills and think critically, and with it all sounding the same, the rarity will become human connection and face-to-face interaction. So if you can successfully find a way to get in front of people for real interactions, that will be far more powerful and far more desirable than any quick AI solution. I do want to take a quick step back here for a second, Felipe, to add something in for the audience. Mentioning Meta Ads. A lot of business owners think that, my ICP, they're not on Facebook, they're not on Instagram. Almost everyone is on Facebook and Instagram to some extent. But then the next thought for them is, how are they going to be shown my ads if they're not consuming my content already, or content that looks just like mine? The thing here is that Meta has more data points on every user than any other platform in existence. They know everything about their users from the very first moment that they join the app, every interaction, every post they liked, every comment they made, everything. They know those people better than anyone. So if you can successfully put together a compelling ad, it will be shown to the right people, and AI is only enhancing that. So do not miss out on Facebook Meta Ads if that's something you're hesitant about. Felipe, when we're looking at everything coming together for you, your story covers profound self-discovery and covers entrepreneurial resilience, and the strategic pursuit of purpose. For the founders, the coaches, and growth-minded listeners who are in the middle of their own growth shift, what's the single most important piece of advice that you would leave them with about self-mastery and sustainable growth?
Suggest for most people, and also for myself, is don't just do things because someone else online is telling you to do. Go deep within yourself and try to find what really is the vision for your life. Like sometimes we get bombarded by, gurus out there and people who are telling certain things. And there's a lot of value to receive from them, of course. There are things that we can learn from observing those people. But I've seen a lot of entrepreneurs that kind of just, they put the hat and then they just go towards that path without really questioning things when it comes to their own vision for their life, right? What do you really want to do with your life and your business? And I think it's almost your duty to look at that, to spend some time with yourself, maybe take a little bit of some of those distractions away. It doesn't have to be 6 months, right? It can be way less time, but maybe just, take distractions away from you for a few days or for a week or so, and then try to look deep within yourself. What's the vision for your business? What's the vision for your life? Find something that is authentic. And I think if you do that with intelligence, with strategy, and with all your will, you're going to get somewhere for sure.
Well, Felipe, thank you for sharing your story, your journey, your insights and lessons with the audience today. For anyone listening who might like to connect with you, maybe to work with you, or even just to continue the conversation, what would be the best way to find you?
The best way will probably be either via LinkedIn or Facebook or Instagram. My name is Felipe Zimmer, and it's very easy to find me. There's not a lot of people with my name. Besides that, my website, felipezimmer.com. So if you go to any of those, you'll be able to connect with me, and I'm always happy to chat, and definitely will answer any DMs or anyone that decides to email me or reach out to me via website or one of those channels.
Thanks again for joining us on The Growth Shift.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Another powerful conversation on The Growth Shift. If you, like our guests, are ready to turn your expertise into a predictable, scalable growth engine, one that eliminates the grind of prospecting and enhances your high-value relationships, then it's time to connect with Valentix. We are not a marketing agency. We are your strategic growth partner, building intelligent systems that ensure your client acquisition is predictable, not dependent on chance. To see how our AI-powered frameworks can free up your time and fill your calendar with decision makers, visit valentix.io. Thank you for joining us on The Growth Shift. We'll see you next time.